Good evening, everyone. Hope you've had a great week. It's been a bit of a time since I've been streaming, so trying to get back into it. Work's been a bit heavy lately, especially with last week and CrowdStrike deciding that life wasn't interesting enough for everyone. Cool. Let's jump over. So, plan for tonight is to have a look at a few things. I'm just going to cap that music a little bit. Might be a bit loud. There we go. So we're going to do some DevOps tonight. So not so much development. I know we've been doing a fair bit of TypeScript and learning around TypeScript lately, but tonight what I want to do is show how we can use deployment pipelines, environments, and kind of work out strategies around how do we deploy software in staged environments and in rollouts of, say, batches or geography or something like that. So we don't have the issue that CrowdStrike ran into where they deployed a bad update to, was it 10 million devices now? And bricked a whole heap of them. So, general take on that is that you should be doing staged rollouts. Even something like security tooling, you might not spend a week between stages, but you at least stage those rollouts in a way that allows you to capture if there are issues early, and not have the update fail for everyone all at the same time. But yeah, let's have a look. We'll get some things. So I'm going to use this TypeScript application that we've been playing with for the last little bit as just a demo application. At the moment it runs. So if I just do pm dev, npm run dev, this is going to go ahead and run the application for us. Let's see, we're on localhost, and then if I just open it in the browser, it's in the wrong browser, of course. So let's drag this across. No, it doesn't want to detach for me. Here we go. And now it's doing horrible things to my screen, because of course it is. But there we go. We can see the application is running. So let me just drag all my screens back over because I decided to mix them all up. Good start. Cool. So we can see we've got that. I'm logged in. I'm still got a login system there working. That's fine. But all we want to do is have this running for now, and this is running locally. So what we want to do is we want to deploy this into Azure. We want to get it running in a way that we have a dev, test, and production environment. And we want to look at how do we do the pipelining and kind of that DevOpsy stuff where we're automating all of those deployments. We're able to roll out at scale, so we might have multiple instances of this running all at once to do some load balancing, things like that. So we'll see where we get. This might be something I do over a couple of weeks, especially if there's anyone interested in learning more about it. We can definitely drill down in sections as well. So let's, I guess, get things started with, let's define some infrastructure, because at the moment we don't have any infrastructure for this at all. Okay, so we've got our web here. So I'm just going to go create a new folder in here called infra. There's an API here as well. We're not going to worry about that tonight. But we'll do infra, and I'm going to use Bicep because I will be deploying to Azure. And yes, let's install the Bicep extension. Thank you. So yeah, we'll be deploying to Azure, so I'm going to use the native kind of language for doing infrastructure as code for Azure, which is Bicep, which I rather enjoy. Okay, so what we're going to need here is a couple of pieces of information. So let's look. Now, have we got bicep there? I'm just checking if we've got bicep down here. We do. And then, so what we're going to need to know is a few bits around how we want to put it. Now, I'm thinking something like Azure Container Apps is going to be an easy way to kind of do this, because then I can package this all up into a Docker file and do that. And that means it's also repeatable. We'll have Docker images, which is a good way to deploy across things, and how we want to build those out. And that, again, leads us to a few different things around DevOps, around not just, okay, I can deploy and I can push out changes, but also how do I roll back if something goes wrong. Using containers, you can keep last good images, things like that. So let's get into that. So let's go. So we'll need an Azure Container Apps environment, and we'll call it name. So we'll do a param, and thank you Copilot. So Container Apps name. So this might also be a bit of a crash course in Bicep for some people, which is fine. I'm happy to go through that. So what we're doing here is we're giving a parameter with a description at the moment. And we will do a description. Azure Container name. And this will just be for the app itself. We'll most probably do some fancy stuff for this later, and that's fine. Okay, cool. So let's now do some things. So let's go. We want a resource, and then so that's giving us a whole heap of stuff we're not quite ready for yet. So. Oops, if I spell correctly. So, container apps, and actually I think it's what is it? Environment. I think it's app managed environment. Just trying to remember. My container apps, my connected environment. Okay, I can't remember off the top of my head. So what we will do, rather than fight it, is we are going to jump over here, and we're just going to do Azure Container Apps, and then we're going to do Bicep. So again, showing no strings attached here. I can't remember off the top of my head how to do it, so we're going to look up the examples, because that always helps. Alrighty, so okay, so first thing makes sense here. Let's do a log analytics workspace, just so we have that. Can I copy? Don't want to let me copy. No, apparently it does not like to let me copy from that. Okay, that's fine. So let's start with how the example does it. Resource log analytics workspace. I cannot type tonight. And what was its operational insights is what its namespace is. And workspace. And cool. and I'll give it a name, log analytics workspace. Location will be the same location as the resource group. So that's a nice that's a nice easy trick here. We can reference the resource group. So we'll be deploying this into a resource group. So we'll reference the resource group and use it to get us our location. So that gives us a log analytics workspace. We don't need a link service. Thank you, Copilot. Okay. We can leave app insights at the moment because I'm not sure how to scaffold that, but we can learn that later. And now we want to do a managed environment. Let's see if it will let us copy managed environment. It does. So it's managed environments. And what we might do is we'll actually pop that off because I want to make sure we're getting the latest version of it. So name, and then that's that container app environment's name, and it's complaining because I'm doing some string interpolation there and it doesn't like it, so we'll just do that. It's fine. Location is the resource group location. Okay. And then what information do we require here? So we're not going to use Dapper. I'm just going to copy this over to here for the moment. So we're not going to use any Dapper stuff for this at the moment. So we're just going to go into properties. Oop. And from here, we're going to do app logs, configuration, and then we'll do a destination, log analytics, and then log analytics configuration. Customer ID is the log analytics workspace. Properties, customer ID, and then the workspace ID. Actually, we don't use the workspace ID, we use the shared key. Log analytics workspace, we do a list keys primary shared key. Okay, so that gets us the environment here. Okay, and then we want so we're not doing any Dapper stuff. We want the actual container app now as well. Resource container app, soft app, container apps. Okay. Now it doesn't, so we also have to redo the properties because I think the properties have changed. That's the problem sometimes with Copilot with infrastructure is that the information that you see through what Copilot gives you can be out of date. So it'll kind of mess you up a little bit there sometimes. Alrighty. So I'm just checking around, making sure I've got all the chats open in case anyone has any questions. And I lost my documentation page. There it is. Cool. Alright, so we go from here, and so we put in some properties. Managed environment ID is the, let me just call that environment. Yep, so that's the environment. It's managed app ID. Do our configuration. And we're going to set an ingress, and we'll be using port, so target port. We'll set this for 80. External, we will set to be true. So we want this accessible from outside. It's going to want a template and a container name. So one thing we don't have in here is the container. So let's also put that in here. And we're going to go container registry. So we want to have a container registry to store our containers in. And it's fine, and we'll just do a basic SKU. That should be sufficient. Okay, so after the configuration, we'll do our template. And here we'll do containers. And we're going to have the one container. Give it a name, which will be container app name, image, and this image name we'll come back to. So what we might just do at the moment is set up Nginx just as a temporary container placeholder, because when we do our actual build, we'll be putting containers into the container registry and then using that to then pull our containers from. Cool. All right. So that gives us a container registry, local analytics workspace, the managed app environment, the container app. So that should be the bulk of it. And what we'll do at the end here, we'll just do an output. Do we have container properties? Do we have the URL available to us? Yeah. Don't think that's actually available to us. So we'll do latest revision FTQDN. And then we'll do output, and I'll put the environment on. Okay, cool. So that's a very basic kind of how do we set this up and allow this to deploy some basic infrastructure here. Okay, cool. So what we want to do next, and we'll have some things here. So next what we'll do is we'll create a new file and we'll call it main.bicepram. And these are the parameters. Now we can override these parameters within command line if we want to, and pulling things from secrets and GitHub, things like that. And that's fine. So call this one demo app. And then demo environment. And what we might do is we might override this one. We'll see. Just due to the fact we'll be deploying this 3 times effectively. Okay, cool. Gonna kill that app that's running. Alright, so that gives us our infrastructure. So what we want to do now is we want to actually go and set up not there, the one above. Oop, not a new file, new folder. We're going to set up our GitHub. What do they call? What do I call these again? They work something, not workspaces. I can't remember what they call them now. It's been a while since I've done GitHub Actions. It's not workload. Let me just double check. workflows. There we are. Workflows. And then we want new one, which will be call it infra. So this will deploy our base infrastructure. Okay. And so we'll do this. So we're going to set a on push branches main. So when stuff is pushed to main, we want to then trigger the pipeline to run. Okay. So just quickly looking up my notes here, because I do have notes for this one, because I don't always remember the exact how to do this. So going to okay, I'll do on push to main. We need to set the permissions. Now we set these permissions specifically because we're also using OIDC as our method of connecting through to our environment. So we want to make sure we're getting all of that as well. Make sure that I've got the right permissions. So switching up contents, I want ID token right, and then I want contents read. Okay. All right, and then we go to our jobs, and so we're not going to actually, I'm just trying to think, because we could set this up as just the basic infrastructure and then leave that as it is, and then when we do the we'll do that. We'll do the basic infrastructure as it is, and then when we use Docker, we'll use the latest tag, and then we'll have a separate pipeline which does the builds, and works from there. Yep, no, that's fine. I've got a plan for that now. Okay, so we're going to do jobs. We'll say it's build, runs on Ubuntu latest, do our steps. Okay, just get checking my notes. Okay, so we're going to do so we check out our code first, that's fine. And I'm going to log in to Sure. We're going to, so we're not going to use this credentials, we're going to use client ID. Not secret. Tenant ID. I've preset this one up. And subscription ID. Okay. So that gives us that. So now we want to do the actual infrastructure deploy. Okay. users Azure one, and we can just we can do the inline script here. Okay, so we've got the resource group. Just checking to see if there actually is a better way of doing the workflow. I know there is actually a GitHub action for this, so we can use that GitHub action rather than having to do the CLI. So we go users, Azure, deploy v1 with subscription ID. Got that subscription ID, and then resource group name. And I've got another important thing here. Not environment, it's not production. The environment for this will be dev, because we're running this on environments as well. Cool. So I've got some resource groups already deployed. So we'll go and grab the name here. Grab this name. Now we could say this. We could put this into a variable as well, but for the moment, I'm just gonna hard code it because we're running in the dev environment. But it's certainly something we can look at cleaning up later. That's all good. And then we're gonna put a template, and now this will be in web infra because we're doing that, and then it's main.bicep. Parameters. We're not doing JSON file, we're doing bicep param. So that gives us those two files, that and that. Okay. So that should be fine. Cool. So let's commit this. We are on main, but that's fine for what we're doing here. Push that up. Okay. Let's head over to GitHub here. Come in here and we can see got our infra here. So what we're going to do is we'll go to actions and we're going to set up a new action that we've already defined. Wait, not that one. No, I want to use my own. Thank you very much. Why haven't you? I guess have you not detected? Did I not? Ah, I know why I did do that. Because I'm silly. I didn't actually add in that base directory may actually help. Okay, cool. There we go. That is better. Reload. Alright, and it's already... It's like wondering why it wasn't there, so there we go. Okay, so let's see if I got any of that correct. Considering I was just really just typing, referencing some doc, there's all sorts of things that could be wrong with it. And that's a pretty normal state to be in as you do these things. I do work a lot more with Azure DevOps at the moment, so this is good for me to dust off the cobwebs a bit more with GitHub and make sure I'm doing that. Unable to parse parameter. All right. Did not like my parameter file. Okay. Unable to parse. Do I need to? Is it maybe parameter file? Let's have a look. Did I misspell? Is that what's going on? That could be very much what's going on. Okay. I can't even type typo. That's right. Let's push that up. The girl's missing a P. Right, so it's rerunning. Okay. Creating a deployment. So what that's doing, if I go over to here and I go to deployments, gee, which resource did I did deploy into dev? So what that should be doing is creating a deployment in here. There we go. You can see it's failed, and that's fine. Alright, and we've got an issue with subscription is not registered to use namespace Microsoft.container registry. Okay, and not registered for operational insights as well. Okay, let's have a quick looky look. How do I do that? All right. Let's follow the link. Okay, what was it? It was missing subscription registration. So let's. How do we resolve the registration? Just do it through the portal. Subscription resource providers. Okay. So we'll go through subscription. And resource providers. Okay. So we want to go container registry. We mostly want all of those. So let's register for those. I don't think it'll let me do multiple. You're gonna let me do multiples. Okay, and then operational. Insights. Interesting that they were not enabled by default, but this is a new subscription through my Visual Studio subscription, so maybe that's what's going on there. Just see if there's anything else. Need that. Let's continue. Just have a quick scan down here if there's anything else obvious that I'm going to need straight away. Compute maybe. I think that's it, but let's rerun the pipeline and just rerun that job and see if we can get that running now. Okay, so going back and trying to redeploy. So we'll pop back here, back into the resource group. Look at any deployments. I think that was the last one. Is it updated yet? Nope, still got valid container app name, must be lowercase. Okay. Easy fix. So container app name. Always fall foul of that. I'm always adding in capitals where I'm not allowed to. I can never remember where you can and can't, so I constantly get failures where it's like, oh, that needs to not have a name. Or sometimes I think like some of the stuff I'm working on today, you couldn't have dashes and you had to have underscores. It's not really consistent, which can sometimes be a bit hard. All right, so I'll push that up. So we should have now another build running. Okay, so it's going off and doing its thing. And to anyone wondering, this is the normal part of the course for developing pipelines. Because there's no good way to test locally, so there's no real validation of what you're doing, apart from syntax. It can be really hard to know if your pipeline's going to run or not. So a lot of the time you just throw it up, see what it does. If it gives you errors, resolve the errors, move on. And the skill in it becomes just how quickly you can iterate and preempt errors and kind of not get discouraged by having a whole heap of pipelines that have failed, knowing that each step you're getting closer to that green tick of, yes, this is all working. Hey there, Onion. How you going? Yeah, my evening's going well. Alright, let's see, have we got any further with our deployment? Yes, we have. We are now actually deploying resources. Now, container registry had an issue because did I give it a name? Well, clearly I didn't, because it's called container registry and that can't be its name. So Let's parameterize that. Thank you. And then we will call this. And then we'll stick it into our parameters. And we're going to call this DDE and I'm going to give it an O1 just in case I need to do some other things. So okay, and then we will do I am based in Australia, so Melbourne, Australia. So it is currently 8:41 p.m. on a Thursday evening here. Yourself, where are you from? Okay, push that up. So you can see that failed because of the container registry, which is all good. Here we go. Getting closer to that green tick. Oh, Finland, cool. One of the countries I do want to go to one day. At some point, trying to get to Europe, especially for the developer conferences. Specifically Oslo. Really want to get to Oslo. There's a really big developer conference there. Okay, so we're rerunning that deployment. Rerunning this deployment. So I'm just checking my email is being spammed with pipeline failures, and that's fine. I think that's the old one. Yep, that's the old one. Cool. Just clear off my email. Okay, so we've got our Logo Linux workspace, our container apps environment, our container app itself, and that looks like that was all good. Though it looks like we didn't deploy the don't export. Don't want that. Oh no, there it is. There's the container. It just took a minute to pop up. Okay, so green tick. There we go. We have deployed our infrastructure here. So we have our app environment, which is running, and we have inside it one application, which isn't showing, which doesn't help. There we are, showing from that one, which is a demo app. And now if we pump this, there we go, welcome to Nginx. So that's all good and that's running. So what we'll want to do now is we're going to want to update. So we're going to want to build our application, package that into a container, and then get that container running in the container app. Cool. So let's get onto that part. So what I want to do here is we want to do a new Docker file, and we'll install the extension for Docker, and let's get this going. So now I will need to do a few things here, so we're going to need to make sure. Now don't know the best way to do this for TypeScript. If it was .NET or a compiled language like .NET, you do multi-stage Docker containers. But since we're working with TypeScript here, I think we just use one image. And is it? All right, let me quickly look that up. I don't want to do so. Okay, so if we do, so we want node and 12. Yeah. Okay, so it says 12, 12.10. Okay, Alpine. Okay, I'm just reading some documentation. Okay, not sure that's doing what I want. So we'll just do basic. Not sure if I'm running. Okay, seems to think I'm running Node 12. I don't think Node 12 is the latest, which I don't think matters too much. But we'll find out. We'll find out together. Yes, containers are great. Very much a fan of container development. I'm actually even using a dev container to run at the moment, so you can see running TypeScript and Node.js 12 in the dev container, and that seems fine at the moment. I don't. What is the latest version of Node? It's like version 20. Okay, I think I am pretty out of date. How? Let's leave it at Node 12. Node 12 runs at the moment, but I definitely need to update that. It's still very much new to the whole Node and JavaScript, TypeScript ecosystem. Okay, so I'm going to set our work dir. I'm just going to call app. I'm going to copy everything in. I'm going to run npm install. So it'll install all of our dependencies. And then we want to expose 3000 onto port 80, and then CMD. We'll do, I think it's npm start. Let's. I think start will work here. We'll find out in a second. No, npm start did not work. It's saying build. Do I need to do that first? And that's going to go ahead and run Okay, so it's creating an optimized production build. It's warning us about some depreciation, which is fine. Okay. Now, I'm not sure where this is going to output. Public node modules. So it's compiling, linting, doing all these good things. So I'm hoping we can get this Dockerized pretty quick, and then we can set up the pipeline to get that into the environment so I can do the multi-environment stuff, which is kind of what I want to show. Okay, so that's done. And then if I was just to do npm start, okay, that seems to be working. So I need to run a couple of things there. Okay. So we run the npm install, we run npm run build, and then we can run the command npm start. Okay. That should be fine. So see if we can build this image locally. We can't because Docker in Docker. I haven't set up Docker in Docker for this. That's fine. This is pretty straightforward. I don't expect that to be too hairy. So what we'll do is we will set up a new workflow and we'll call this build. Okay, so we'll use this one to actually build the doc file. So I'm just going to grab the same information here from the start of this pipeline. Jobs, build, alright, and we'll do the, yep. So it runs on Ubuntu latest. So we won't do an environment here because we're just going to do the build to start with, and this is going to be a key thing is when we do the build, we then want to be copying the container from container registry to container registry. So then that will be the way that we will stage this through the environments. So we don't want to do that here. So we want to do the steps. Yep, steps, and then we want to do the name checkout. So checkout. And Copilot's trying to get us to do all this other stuff again that we've already done, but we don't need to. Image. Now, this run will just build the image, which we actually want to build and publish it. So let me just quickly pop up. Okay, just because we want to. At the moment, this is just a demo application. I'm working on kind of like it's like an old school web game, where you'd have a browser-based game which would then run an API in the background. Fairly simple. It's just a good way to learn TypeScript, front end and back end. But what I'm doing today is specifically around just how do you do environments. So how do I build an image, promote it from kind of the built into dev, have it deploy into the dev environment, be able to test, and then have an approval to then move to the next environment, so move into test, and then finally move into production. Just looking at time, I don't think I'll get to it tonight, but then eventually I also want to do how do you do stage rollouts in production? How do you take something like rolling out to a whole heap of services all at once? So you got a load balance service and you want to roll out maybe only half of them or 10% of them. Kind of triggered on the issues we've had with CrowdStrike, where CrowdStrike deployed everywhere all at once and broke everything. I think it's good to help educate on how to do these kind of stage rollouts, things like that. So, okay, I'm just looking up if there's a Docker action, and there seems to be, but I need to do a Docker login. I don't think I can log in. Yeah, very much wise man learns from others' mistakes, and I think CrowdStrike's whole outage has shown that we're still not really doing deployments very well at scale. Like some organizations are, but some are certainly not, and it's a bit of a wake-up call to some of those organizations. I mean, there's also a lot of discussion around how many vendors should be around, because if you have only one vendor and they make a mistake, then the blast radius is pretty wide. So there's lots of industry discussion to be had there, which I think is good. It's good to have discussion. I mean, it's not good that there was a major outage and many people are affected, but it's good that we as a engineering kind of culture can look at that and say, okay, what failed and how do we do better next time? Okay, so we want to do Docker login. So let's go Docker login, because we want to log into our container registry, and then users Docker login. So this, we'll use the Azure Docker login. Okay, so I'm gonna have to go and get those secrets set up, which is fine. So what this will actually give us a chance to do is we can talk about environmental secrets and kind of how you would use those. I'm just trying to make sure we get the right ones. So actually we will need to put this as an environment dev to start with, just because we need to at least be stepping this into one first. Okay, cool. Alrighty, so I'm going to get this into our development environment. So use those secrets, and what we'll do is we'll go over to Azure. So container registry here. And we'll need to do some stuff with access keys, and we'll also need to go and set up some information inside here. So you can see we've got our environments laid out here. And we want to go into our secrets and variables, and we want to manage an environment secret for dev. Add environment secret, and we will call this one. What did it want to be called? Actually, it wanted to be called registry name, and then we'll need to get that information. Can I do this? So it's the registry name, login server. Gee, can I? There should be a way to do this. Logging in with OICD, IDC, that way. Yeah, Kubernetes is good. I'm planning. So the endpoint here that I'm hitting is Azure Container Apps, and Azure Container Apps is effectively managed Kubernetes in Azure. So it's still all running on Kubernetes underneath the hood, but it abstracts away a lot of the networking and complexity of Kubernetes if you're just doing simple things. So you don't need to run a full Kubernetes cluster. Okay. Just quickly having a look to see if there is a way to log in without using a username and password, but instead using the credentials that we have. Okay. Documentation is telling me to use a service principal, which makes sense, though I don't really want to set up another service principal if I can avoid it. Because I want to try and avoid storing client secrets if I can, using OIDC. But I may not be able to. Which is fine. If that's the way it wants to play things, that's the way it wants to play things. I can certainly work around it. Okay, so apparently the that one's. So I'm just changed it all up, which is a pain. Okay. So it wants me to do something. So it doesn't want me to use this action anymore because it looks like this action is no longer being maintained. So we need to use Docker login action v3. registry. So let's go get the registry details for that. So it's this one. So that's that, and then we'll need a username and we'll need password. And this will be an Azure client ID, and this will be an Azure client secret. Okay, and I'll actually call this ACR client ID just to differentiate them, because I am already using some stuff there. Cool. All right, let's go and so we'll actually need to go back to our application registration, which is essentially our service principal. Here it is. And we're going to have to go and set up a new client secret. Okay. And this one is ACR login. Okay. That's right. So grab that value, and then we're going to go and call this client. And then we'll that. Okay, and I'll recycle that credential a little bit later, because obviously that was popped up on stream for a little bit, but for now that's fine. I don't think anyone, unless you're gonna go clip it and go and try and bounce back through it, which if you are, good luck to you. It's just gonna deploy something into my ACR. Okay, and then we will add another one, which will be ACR client ID, which is this one here. Cool. Alrighty, so that gives us our ACR client ID, ACR client secret, which we have there. Okay, so that should log us in to there. So now once we've logged in, we should be able to build and push, and so we are logged in, so we should just be able to do that, and that's build and push, and then latest there. So we are using latest on this. Mostly can do something a bit more refined with versioning numbers a little bit later, but the way that that'll be working is we'll just keep pushing latest onto the registry, and then the registries themselves will be linked up to the container apps. So when container apps are restarted, they should pull the latest version. So we're kind of controlling it in that way. Is one way to do it. There's plenty of others, and I'll mostly investigate a few others and demonstrate them later on. But for now, let's see if that has worked. Go back to directory. Right. So push that up. And let's go and see if that now. What are we doing? Oh, we're okay. Adding infra, so I should actually add a path to the infra. Yeah, latest is just me getting things done quickly, but you're very correct on in that you should definitely be pinning versions. You should be saying this version is this specific one. Can also work if you only want to use like one container registry, so you might have like a dev version with a specific identifier, a specific tag, and then a test with a different tag, and then the production one has the latest tag or something like that, or pinned version. Pinned versions are generally good if you want to ensure that you're maybe doing like an n-1 update, so you're running the container version one behind the latest. You'll want to then make sure your versioning is correct. But for what we're doing here, latest is fine. But and I think actually it's good to show that as we're doing latest, as this kind of builds out, it'll show how that doesn't scale. Yeah, so the tag and the shardcode. Yeah, if you're doing critical, most definitely you'll want to be doing some kind of like hash check or something like that on your release to ensure that just because it has the same tag, it is also the same code that was built. Because you don't want someone not accidentally, but someone maliciously trying to inject on the same version tag. So yeah, if you're being hypercritical about what the service is, then yeah, definitely have some kind of shardcode or some kind of hash that you can then use to verify the contents of the container. I think GitHub were doing something with attestations as well, which is kind of like a way of signing your Docker containers. That's something I should look into. So essentially having a way to sign and say this Docker container is built from this repo, from this commit. So it gives that kind of chain of trust. Okay, so look, that's fine. Now this one failed because I missed something. Because I'm saying use here, aren't I? Typo. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to quickly go and just make sure. So what I'm adding here is the ability to only trigger on updates to specific paths. And that path check can be important when you're doing kind of a monorepo. Kind of what we have here is a bit of a monorepo. Because you don't want to run pipelines when you don't need to. And I clearly did not. I clearly did not set that up properly. I think. Oh wait, no, that's right. Have I just named? Just named it the same thing. Helps if you also change the name of your pipeline. We won't push it yet, so I'll go have a look what the error was. Okay, makes sense because we're not in the right directory. Directory. So what we could do here is rather than try and put the working directory inside the command here, we'll change the working directory of the action. All right. push that up, and away it goes. Okay. So we are getting a successful login here, which is good. And we are getting our Docker build. Getting all sorts of warn depreciations. This is most likely due to the fact that I'm running. What are we doing? Okay, I think this is a version issue. Okay, let's update the node version in the Docker file. Yeah, GitHub is really good for that fast-paced kind of logs out of your pipelines, which makes it so much easier when you're debugging them or you want to watch them run. Okay. So, latest LTS for Node is 2016.0. And I need to update my dev container, which I will do later on. Okay. Back to our actions. Yeah, I haven't used GitLab in anger. I've only kind of played it with it a little bit. I'm definitely a GitHub person. I say I'm a GitHub person, like I'm a big GitHub fan. I run a GitHub meetup actually here in Melbourne. But day to day, I end up using Azure DevOps more, just due to the nature of clients, because I work as a consultant. So I work with a lot of bigger organizations. So you've got to use what they use. Okay, so it looks like that version bump has fixed that issue. Alright, so we're pushing that to the container registry. Okay. So that's good. So we should be able to come back into our Azure environment, go to our container registry, and go to repositories, and we can see that repository there, and we have that latest tag here. So with our digest there. New and getting certified for hosting GitLab. Well, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Especially in the ops world, Git has not been a primary feature of ops for that long. So you can certainly run these big systems and not really know Git, but I think that's rapidly changing with DevOps in the way it's progressing into, say, platform engineering, and it being more everything's controlled by code. So infrastructure as code, configuration as code. Git's becoming much more important. But the easiest way to learn Git is just to do it. Just to keep practicing, do little things, try and source control your kind of day-to-day scripts, even if it's just by yourself. I find that's a really good way to learn. Also means if you get into trouble, it's only your scripts that are affected and you can kind of unwind them a bit. Yeah, that's why I kind of I like doing actions because it is very much all code. There's not really like there is a web ID for it, but I like to just I'm very because I came from a programming background before I started into DevOps. Um, it's quite easy for me to make that shift into infrastructure as code, configuration as code, pipeline as code. But it's certainly not for everyone. And it's still, yeah, it's one of those things that's hard at the moment. I work with a lot of engineers who come from a pure admin background, and it's certainly something I help them with a lot. But at the same time, I'm not as well versed in networking. Done some networking, got an okay idea, can do cloud networking on Azure, but put me in a data center, I'll be lost. Okay, cool. So we have this one in our one here. So now what we need to do is get that into our environment. Hey, Alberto on YouTube. ISE is the best thing ever invented. Hate point-and-click configuration. I agree. Having been in the situation where ClickOps has broken production systems because someone made a mistake because they were tired. It happens, we're human. Very much prefer the automated code-based systems. Okay, so we can see our container app here. And if we go to our actual app, so we could see container there. So what we can do here is we're going to go and update the infrastructure as code section here. And you can see here we've got Nginx as our image. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that. We're going to come in here and we're going to description, image, name, and we can leave that as a default. So if it's not supplied, it does Nginx. And then we go throw this into our parameters. Now the reason we're doing this is so that if we wanted to in pipeline, we could update this dynamically. But because I'm just doing the latest at the moment, we'll just stick with that. So if I now go grab, let's go back to our registry. And so we want to grab, this is our image, grab that. And then that will give us the image so that when this service starts, it should always pull the latest. So that should be fine. Let me do the image name there. So cool. So we'll go and change that. Actually, just while I think about it too, with this web build, I'm going to want to set the paths to make sure I'm trying to remember if that's the correct. I think I need to do an includes and excludes here. Because I don't want to trigger on that. I don't remember if this is the correct way to do it, but we'll find out soon enough. Okay, so we'll go back to broke something. Broke both, I think. Yeah, that broke infra and okay. No, definitely broke that. So we're just gonna do that for the moment and unbreak that. Now what did I break here? Didn't think I changed anything with the pipeline. Let's push that up. Okay, yeah, certainly valid type for on. Might be kind of failed my indentation. Or it's just I'm getting tired. It's 9:30, so it's been a long day. All right. Still giving me an invalid. Okay, let's remove what I'm trying to do there. I thought I had that working. Oh, thank you for the follow. Thank you, Onion, for that follow. Yes, program running out of coffee. Program running out of. I've been up since 7 a.m. something like that. So brain is slowly starting to shut down. Let's add. Moving path checks. Like I'll go and reference another project that I've done which has the path checks later and be like, oh yeah, that's how I do it, and kick myself a little bit. But that's okay. That's all part of the experience. All right. Looks like we are running. So let's go with base infrastructure. Did I not change that name? I thought I did change. It's just messing with me. I think. What are we doing? Oh no, we're deploying infrastructure. I thought it said it was kind of doing the image build in the infrastructure. Yeah, definitely getting tired of that. Sorry, I've got 30 minutes left in the stream. Because I stream usually 2 hours, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. So, but I think we got a good amount done from starting from scratch today, which is good because then next time I stream, I'll follow this up with more of the environmental and more of the kind of showing where using latest is bad and you don't want to do it, and then how we start doing rollouts and things like that. Oop, I've got a failure. Invalid value. It doesn't like that image. Interesting. That's an interesting failure. Just make sure that the other one's fine. When pushed, all good. But this one did not like the image name. So if we go to the resource group, we go to the deployments, we can see that it failed on deployment. So if we go into it, we can see it failed on here. Invalid. Unauthorized. Okay, alright. I can see where that's the issue. Because what's happening here is the container app and the environment are trying to pull from the container registry. So, we've got half an hour. I think I can get this done in half an hour because it's an important thing. What we don't have is an ID here. So we don't have a managed ID to say this has permissions to call the container registry. So what we'll do is we'll set up. Now, we can't do it in here unless I give elevated access to the service principal into Entra ID. So we'll just do it manually for now. You can set this up with the service principal, but what I found is this is one area that's difficult, especially in large organizations. They don't like to give pipelines the ability to write and read from their kind of Entra ID or Azure ID. Azure AD is what used to be called Entra ID now. They don't like it to be able to do things like give roles and give permissions. They want to leave that as something that the security team does. So what we'll do is we will create a managed identity. So user assigned managed identity. So now we're still going to do this by code. We're not going to, we're ClickOpsing into place the managed identity itself, but we're going to do the assignments of what it's attached to in code. So we're going to call it that. Create. Okay, so we're going to go to this resource here. So that's fine. So that's the managed identity. So then what we're going to do is we're going to give it, not here, we'll do it on the resource group itself, and we're going to add a role assignment, and we want ACR pull as the role, and then we're going to select the managed identity. Okay, so we're applying this managed identity to the resource group with the role pull, and I think that's the only, let's give it, because we only want to do pull. Let's give it reader as well for the repository, just in case it needs to read the repository to find the image, because I can't remember. That's fine. So we give these two roles on the resource group, so we don't have to do that there. Okay. And now, so this is the managed identity. So we grab this name, come back here, and we will put this here. And call it managed identity name. That's a string, and then we come into here. And that's our managed identity name. And then we come back into here. And we'll do it at the top, and we'll say resource managed identity. And that is kind of what we want, but not quite, because that's making a new one. And we say existing, so we are getting one that exists. And then we're doing it's not formatted that way, it's formatted in this way. Now, this identity doesn't exist on that one. Okay, identity doesn't exist on that resource, but does it exist on the container? It does, okay. And again, that's not how you reference it, Copilot. You reference it in that way. Okay, cool. So what we're doing here, we are assigning that managed identity to the container app, so that the container app can actually pull the image. All right. And we'll see if I have done that correctly or not. So adding that managed identity in. Now, one thing we're not doing here, which I do want to go back and I will redo, is we're not doing a what if command, which is not, so essentially a what if command tells us what we're changing. Terraform has a similar thing if you're aware of Terraform, which is you have a Terraform plan, which will then preemptively tell you what is going to happen. Bicep has a similar thing with what if. So normally I like to have what if statements within the application or within the pipelines. I like to do a what if on all branches. So if you commit code to the repo, it should run a what if just to tell you what would happen if this code was merged into your main branch. Because it can help you debug, help you work out, is this infrastructure going to do what I want it to do? And then it's always good within your main pipelines to have it, because then you have a trace of what happened before something was deployed. Okay. Oop. We have an error. Still didn't like the field. Alright, let's go and check. Go and check what happened there. Did I miss something? So it's still saying it didn't. Still saying unauthorized. We did apply identity. No, we didn't. It didn't get applied. Why didn't it get applied? Why did we not apply the user identity to the container app? Certainly should have. That's interesting. Maybe because it's failed to pull and then try to apply. Okay, let's reset this for a second. So let's just gonna comment that out. Just going to temporarily remove that. So I want to get it deployed to make sure that I'm actually getting that managed identity in place. So let's did I run? Did I manage to run too? Oh no, that's building the Docker image. That's okay. I can do it. That can do its thing there. That's fine. I'll go and check an old project on how I do the path thing later on. Alright, so let's take 2 on this one. Glad actually I haven't been doing much on stream in this way for a little bit since I changed jobs, because I haven't had access to Azure to actually do it. But I've got my Visual subscription back, and that comes with some free credits. So those credits allow me to work on showing how some of this Azure stuff works, which is really cool because this is stuff I really enjoy doing. Okay, infrastructure deployed successfully then. That's good. So we can see that succeeded. So now if we go back to the container app, and if I go, identity has been attached. Cool. So now if we go back, now I wonder here also if I need to do a full qualified name. Just gonna I wonder here. So I was to edit this. Yeah, no, not quite what I want. You can see the image source hasn't been set. Alright, may have to do something slightly different with that because it wants to log in. Don't think. So let's have just a quick look at not resources. Source. Volume. Yeah, can't see what it is, but that's all right. Alright, let's just try this one and see if that makes any difference. But I think I've got a configuration issue where I haven't configured that properly. but that's okay. We will get to that. So. Did trigger, oops, lists. Yep, triggered the pipelines. Be running that deployment. Thinking about running that deployment anyway. There we go. It's saying okay there, but no, there we go. So now we're doing the key one. Refresh. See if it's going to pull. No. Still getting unauthorized. Yeah, doing something wrong there. I have to go look up what it is I am doing incorrectly with that. So I thought I just had to give it permissions, but it looks like I mostly have to set up this detail here for the container details, like where's the image source, what's the logon server for that. So, but if we go to container go have a look at one of the modules. So this is the container apps module in documentation. So we've got containers, image, the init, revisions, scaling. It doesn't say anything here about actually the container there. Maybe I do need to put, let's try it. See if it does any different. Or I'm not seeing what's in the source controls. No, this is just a different way of doing the CI/CD for it. Yeah. Yeah, I can't see anything to do with the registries or anything inside this section. That's right. I think brain's just getting a bit tired. It's mostly a very simple thing that I'm just skipping a step, or I'm not approaching the container app the correct way. So this is also something maybe that you need to do via like an Azure CLI command where you can change the image via the CLI rather than trying to change the infrastructure. The problem is then you have an infrastructure drift, which is a pain. So, but we'll work out how to best handle that. Later on. Okay, so we've still got that failure. It still does not like that. Thing. So we can do it via here. Why are you flipping to? Interesting. I don't know why I flipped back to credentials. Interesting. It's being very finicky, isn't it? It keeps trying to bounce back to admin credentials when I don't want to use admin credentials. Just check role assignments. Yeah, the manager said he has the correct role assignments here. Interesting. No, okay, I'm clearly doing something a bit wrong, but that's okay. I will go and double check my stuff on that later on. But for now, what we've accomplished today was that we've set up our infrastructure. So we've set up this kind of base infrastructure with container registries, our application insights, managed environment for our container apps, and then a container app with parameter files so we can parameterize and change these dynamically if we need to. We've set up a Docker file for the application. We have set up both the infrastructure pipeline and the Docker build pipeline. So we've set both of those up and they have been working. So that's all good. We've set up OICD and also login for the Azure Container Registry in GitHub as well. So we have all those secrets set up. So we can see got a good mixed bag of success and failures across our pipelines, which is fine. Something definitely to work on. But yeah, so I'll go and debug those issues later, and then next stream I think what we will focus on is actually rolling out those changes. How do we do promotions of a Docker image from dev to test? How do we control that flow? How do we use environments, things like that, to actually do approvals and stuff in GitHub? Because we can see, if I go here, we can see we've got deployments and we've deployed into dev. If we look at those deployments, that's all this. And then we'll be able to then say deploy into test, show those deployments. and kind of control that and take that from there. Cool, but if anyone would like to have a look at code that I have been playing with, it is publicly available. I will pump this both into YouTube and into the use my wrong account on YouTube, but that's okay. And I'll do Twitch. There we go. So that's the repo. Feel free to have a look. It's pretty bare bones, but it's a starting point, and we'll just keep plugging away at it. But I think that's it for me tonight. So I hope everyone has a great rest of your week, and I hope you have a restful weekend. And I will see you all next week at some point. Alright, have a good one, everyone.